or Photoshop. Okay, so looking at what we actually have in that software, so or in that clip, all the things that kind of went into making that. All right, so in the YouTube video for this, let me turn, okay, so this is kind of my main folder here. In here, this has a drop shadow on it. So this is the YouTube frame. The overall YouTube frame has a drop shadow. So everything inside of it, you can add those shadows and things to packages as opposed to just individual layers. You can also see that means there's a drop shadow underneath this inside frame too. So it creates a little bit of depth inside and a little bit of depth outside. All right, the other thing about this, so we have the different aspects to the actual Waterways page. So this is the custom YouTube page. So basically I had to make a YouTube page. Each one of these images and titles are the names and titles. So this is Hardigan Beach is scene 2. Scene 3 is the process. Scene 4 is the tap. Scene 5 is the profit. Scene 6 is, yeah, on and on. Okay. So basically in the dialogue, she talks about how she made a playlist for everybody about the environment and how we can, and we're going to share that and watch it. So that's what we're watching is a playlist. Okay, a YouTube playlist. That's our frame. In the scope of what the audience is viewing, the frame is YouTube, right? And that's why at the very beginning it says set it full screen, because if it's set to full screen, you'll be gotten by those gags of like the click here, you know, click to skip and things like that. And looking at the actual YouTube frame, it gives it a whole nother layer when you're looking at it the way you would a normal computer. You forget that you're looking at a video and you think that you're watching an actual screen, which is a problem for me, because oftentimes when I save these videos and export them, they'll be the window and I think I'm in like Photoshop, but I'm literally just looking at a video of Photoshop and I'm like trying to click around. I'm like, oh, right, I'm not in Adobe. Okay, so in here to do this, basically the first thing I brought up a window of YouTube and I just brought any window. This is what my YouTube layout looks like, the color palette and whatnot. And so basically what I did is I did a screenshot where on the Mac you hit Shift Command 4 and then basically you can drag, and whatever box you drag and create, it'll take a picture of and it saves it to your desktop. I don't know what it is on PC, but it's very useful tool to be able to take shots of things that you're actively working on, right? So if you're working and you really want to recreate what a text message looks like, it's a lot easier to take a screenshot of a text message box and then pull things out of it and add things into it. So when we're looking at this we didn't make a YouTube page for Lake and River. We had talked about it, but we never got down to it. But basically looking at it, this is the YouTube title, okay? So the title of Waterway is just a text box. I can come in here to this text box, double click it and make it window triple. I don't know. I just came up with a phrase, right? But what I did was I went onto YouTube and looked at what kind of font it was, and I tried to mirror it and match it as close as possible. Command Z gets me back to Waterway. And I lined it up with where it would go in the actual thing. I gave us 202 views. So if you look here, what is this? The Chrome title mask. Oh, okay. So at the end, notice at the very top right up here that if you look on a YouTube page or on a Google Chrome page, it actually fades out the text at the end. So I literally added in a little mask that fades out. If I move it, you can see it's literally just that background in a gradient format. And creating gradient's really easy. So I'm just going to add a layer so you can see. But if you come over here to the paint bucket, what is the paint bucket? It normally starts as the paint bucket, which we know does just the paint bucket. If you set it, I'm going to make this color more interesting so it's not one color. Oh God, those are such terrible colors. It's for the project I'm currently working on. But if you click on it and hold and you go to the gradient tool, basically you draw a line, you click and hold and draw a line and it creates a gradient. If I do a short line, it's a very thin line gradient. If I go all the way from corner to corner, it's going to start that gradient differently. So if you see any of the videos that I do online, I always have a gradient in the background because it creates a little bit of depth, it adds a little character to it, and it just kind of deceives the eye and mixes it up. So if you don't know exactly what you're looking at when you're looking at a video, it makes it a little more easy to be like a dynamic background, okay? So nothing in this is like that because again, I'm recreating the real world. I'm not making a facade environment, which is what those other videos are, is when I'm creating some kind of fake space that I'm in, okay? So I'm gonna delete that layer, but this little layer, I'm gonna Command Z back, is what I clicked on the color here and then I used this eyedropper to get that color. So I have that exact color and I made a little mask that just goes in front of it to make it look like it fades out like it does on an actual page. Title tab, so again, I just blacked out the title, or I colored out the title using the eyedropper tool, made a box so that you can't see what's actually under it. I made the URL, so I just typed in a URL so that we had something to look at. basically coming in and getting rid of anything that doesn't look the way I want it. If I turn off all the layers, let's see. So my base is, this is the actual tab's title, so that's gone. Here's the URL, that's gone. This is the number of views right at the bottom. So it goes back to whatever the original views were on here. I had to make it more realistic for this. The likes are gone. The playlist titles, so this is all just a bunch of text boxes, right? Each text box tells me what the playlist is. And then we can also see the actual title of it. And I duplicated the check mark so that it would look like that actual thing, right? So basically trying to recreate this environment because the audience knows what it looks like. So if I turn that playlist off, then we go and look here, this is the overall frame. So this is the screenshot of what was used for the piece. And then the video playlist, I just went in and took screenshots of each of the scenes and used each of the scenes as a screenshot so that it has one of the windows so that it makes sense and they're in line for how they go in the story. Okay, so all that, that being said, let's look at After Effects and how it's actually processed together. So in After Effects, so the first thing is, this is the main video file. If I zoom all the way out, you can get a better view of what's going on, but this is the 50-minute show file. Each of the scenes is one of the purple lines. This is a correction of audio. So the dark green is how I tell myself it's an audio thing. Any of the blues are usually layers that are video. So this is like the garbage truck. This is a video that I made of the conveyor belt type stuff. But basically I break everything down. So each thing works into its own little, so each, sorry, let me make that better. So this is a composition, right? The full production is a composition, and then each layer in the composition is either a title or an image or another composition. So you can have compositions inside compositions. This is the full opening. Oh, I locked this. I locked all these layers so I couldn't make changes on them. If you lock a layer, it basically tells you you could open it and see what stuff is, but you can't make changes. So if you have something you don't want to mess with that you're really happy with, lock it, and then you can't mess it up later accidentally. So if I double click this layer, the full opening, it takes me into another composition. So the full opening has the meat, lake, and river. It has a black solid, which we'll get to in a minute of what these are. But basically inside this composition, all of these layers are different additions, but even inside that, opening is another composition. So I have opening and then I have full opening. And that's because if I open opening, it's 5 or 6 layers of its own, and I didn't want all these layers in there. So I created this and then I pre-composed it so that it just becomes one simple layer. And if I need to change something, I just double click it and I go in and I change something inside of it, okay? So these things get more elaborate as you go. Your video doesn't have to be a bunch of compositions inside compositions, but it makes it a lot easier to manage. So right here is the title. This title, the text is the text. The transforms show that its scale starts at 100% of whatever size the text was. Its opacity is 0. Then its opacity will fade up to 100, and then it will stay there, and then it will drop back down to 0, and it'll get larger as it goes, okay? So if I solo out this layer and just look at it, so this is just Jenny's name. So basically, it gets larger this whole time between here and here, it gets larger. It goes from 100% to 130%, and it takes approximately, what is this, like 7 seconds, and this is 15, so it takes about 7 seconds to get there. If I grab these and I scooch them closer, now nothing changes other than it gets larger a little bit faster and it fades out quicker. If I scooch all of these, or here, let's actually just, I'll leave these. If I just scooch this, it will stay at whatever size it is in that last moment, because that last moment is its identifier. From now on, all the way through the end, it will always be that 130%, okay? So then that's just the title, that's its own layer. Then you come in, here's the actual stroke, okay? So this is creating a stroke is taking a pen tool. So this is an effect that I did. So basically you take the pen tool and you draw, you make a point, you make a point, make a point, make a point, make a point. And I was just tracing the actual words waterway, and then added to that an effect that this stroke effect basically uncovers it as it goes, okay? So if you look here, this, let me think the easiest way to do this. Okay, so if this is, I'm gonna do this layer just on its own so we can see just this to explain this. So if this is 0%, it starts at 100%, which means its path is all the way complete, but basically it reveals this path from 0 to 100, okay? See how it does that? So it's literally following that yellow line and revealing from 0% to fully revealed over here. So here is 0 reveal, here is all the way revealed. Sorry, there's 0. So what that means is if I'm here, this first point, and I set these points based on what it needs to do. So this point here is the start of the word. The next point is completely revealing the W. So I set how long I want it to take for the W to be revealed. The next point is the same. It doesn't change, okay? So basically 31 point, or no, sorry, it does. But it's completing, sorry. So if this is, let me see. If this is 21.1% complete, right? So it's revealed, it's revealing the white lettering behind it. So if this is 21.1% complete, if I move all the way up here and get to here, that is 31.5% complete. So it starts to reveal the bottom here, right? And then if I go over to here, it's over to 38.9. So it reveals this much. What it's doing is I'm telling it how long to take to reveal portions of this. That again, if I just did it from 0 to 100 without anything else affecting it, it would do, oh, sorry, my opacity is fading out because I have this whole thing doing a thing. Let me just break this layer off and make a new one so I can work on this one without affecting the other too much. I'm gonna turn off some of the position, scale, and brightness and stuff so we can just look at this path, okay? So, also, I have 3 paths, okay? So I'm gonna turn off the other 2. I'm just gonna set them to complete so that we don't have to deal with that. 1 second, sorry. This is a complex thing, which is why I'm trying to break it down slowly. Okay, and then stroke 3, I'm gonna set to 0. Okay, great. So now we're only dealing with the 1 stroke path, which is the first one. Don't wanna reveal those. Sorry, I want the effects. Okay, so in this, because I wanted to do multiple letters at multiple times, I have it doing multiple paths so that I can uncover an A in multiple points at one time. But if we just look at just this one, just the original path, okay, the main path, I set it to 0 here, so it's 0% complete. I set it to 0% complete here, and then this one is 100%. So if you watch 0 to 100, it will just do that path. It's just the whatever line that's been drawn by that path, okay? Which is that yellow line in this case. If I move that line further out, it just takes longer to get there. But notice how long it takes to get from like the end of the W to the beginning of the A. Okay, that delay is what I'm fixing with these points. So basically, this first point reveals from here to here, reveals the W. From here to here, from here to here, it's just getting to the A, so that the A reveals itself in time. And so then when I go through the A, that completes the A. And this just gets it up to the point where it's getting to the top of the T. And so then it shows me the top of the T. Or yeah, it goes through and completes the T. And then basically the E's revealed, right? And so this is just working through how it's revealing it. And then what I also have to make this more realistic is I have this stroke and this stroke, which are revealing separate paths so that the W can be revealed. So it can all happen kind of at one time. Let me actually just go back to the original. So to be able to reveal multiple paths at one time, do I have something soloed? Oh, right, I turned it off. So basically the W is just one line, but to get the A to have the middle happen, that's a separate path so that it reveals it and I can time that reveal at the same time. Getting the T going down is a separate path. Getting the middle of the E in the right. So this is kind of how it's doing, how I did that. And then I changed stuff in here when I was showing us our demo. So if I get rid of our demo stuff, it'll go back to being what it was, okay? So then this is done so that I can have those two. So this is the title and the other title. And then I have the audio with it. Sorry, it's gonna be loud. And I use the audio, the visualization of the audio so I can track what I'm doing in time. The second text, okay, so this is another version of the word waterway that just stays in place. This one, the one that's revealing itself, is set to while it's going, it's set to change size as it moves. So it's changing its position and scale. So it does this movement while revealing, set in time. Then a second word, waterway, just appears. And what I did was I lined it up in that spot when I wanted the second one to appear. I just lined it up and I copied it, and then I got rid of its movement and effects. And so it looks like it just kind of was an imprint, and it's moving it as it fades out. And then this one, nothing else happens. Okay, so basically my pre-comp just gets me to the point where that video is now what I want it to be for what I'm working in the other composition. So if I go back to the full production, or sorry, if I go back to the full opening, this is that composition we were just looking at, right? So from beginning to end, if I solo this, it is exactly what we just watched, including the audio, because the audio is in it. Okay, so if I do that, I use that as the beginning, then up here is the waterway frame, okay? So right now it is scaled to be larger than the actual screen. It's just hiding beyond the screen, right? So if I get rid of that point and I zoom out, let's just go to 100, and I select it in here. Let me move the zoom stuff. This button down here shows me rulers and guides. This one to the right of it will show me where the outlines are. Oh, I even got to go further out. 1 second. Okay, so that's the actual frame of that window right now. Okay, so basically it's zoomed way out. So then what happens is when this scene starts, when it looks like it's moving, it's just hanging out and waiting. And then that keyframe is where it starts moving and it starts scaling in. And as it scales in, I ran into my face in the video. So as it scales in, then it stops at the size that leaves it where it is in the video. So if I go in and I look at this and I zoom in on this, right? So we see the video underneath, which is the composition from the last scene, and then we have this frame that's moving at the top, which is just saved as a PNG in the other software. Okay, let me see if I can make this a little bit quieter so I don't have to yell against it. 1 second. So I can go, if you're looking at editing audio in the composition, I do have some changes that are going to happen in a second. But basically, I can drop my audio. I'm just going to do 10 decibels down on each point so it's not too terrible. This is saved in another hard drive, so this is not, this is saved in another hard drive, so it's not killing me to do this. I'm not saving any of this for keeps. Okay. So let's look at the next layer. So the next one coming up is the pipe, which is the white line. This is this line right here, right? And this has a similar thing where it's just the file itself. If I double click on the file, it's just a white line that goes down over to over. And then I did a stroke path on it. So again, if you look at it from start to end, this path is what reveals that line. So you can't see it. Sorry, this is this is the actual image. But this line is me revealing it. And what I did was I timed it so that it would hit the corners at the time that it would hit with the music beats. So I knew what those were. And that's why that has those specific placements, is because I wanted to make sure that at that corner, I aligned that point where it was supposed to be. So if I were trying to do this, what I would do, right? This is just my one line. This is where so let's actually watch what this looks like with the, 1 second. Lots of layers, lots of things going on. Where's my composition? There it is. So with the audio, so watch the pipe. Watch how it turns the corner. Okay, now watch what I had before. Right, so it hits and it turns on that moment, and it doesn't work great for the second one in relation to how the music times, but basically not having that, oops, sorry, up here, getting rid of that point means here's how it's going to look. Not a huge difference, but when you're watching it, there's that feeling of like, oh, that's where that goes. You see that turn the corner right then. And the way you do that is you come in and you figure out where it turns the corner. Right, it turns the corner. I can keyframe through right there, and then I put a dot there, right? So I just literally add a dot in where it is, and then I find the spot in the music right there. So then I move this over. right? So that's kind of how you can adjust things to make them match with what you're doing. So that's the pipe. Let's look at the other layers here. The arrow, so this is the mouse. So the mouse's movement is timed and set to whatever it needs to be. You can see it changing size as it comes in. So it gets smaller and scales down its opacity. That's the click. So right here is a click, right? So it moves in, it just zooms in a little bit and zooms right back out like we looked at before. And you can see right here is an audio effect. This is from funny free sound effects, but it is the sound of a click. If I didn't have that, what just happened, right? One little sound cue does so much for the telling of a story, all right? And so when it transitions here to the next, basically what happens is we get rid of the pipe, it's already gone. The waterway frame is gone. I've now jumped to a different frame, and this frame is the next frame, right? And what I mean by that is when you click on a video, this is video 1, Meat Lake and River. When you click on it, now this can't be video 1 anymore because you're in video 1, which is Meat Lake and River, okay? So makes sense? So then when you think about this and how this comes in, all of these had to be moved up, and that's a separate PNG. But if you look at it, the video of Lake and River is just a video of Lake and River. Okay, so literally what I did was here, this is the video. Then I froze it. So I did a time freeze, which is just by taking, it's a time remap. So you right click, you click on time and you do freeze frame, and it just will keep whatever your video, whatever frame you're on. In this case, it's this frame right here, and it freezes that whole video on that. Then I dropped its opacity to 40%, so it's darker. And then this is just the video again, running in real time how it should. So this is what that looks like. That's the video dropping out. Oh, sorry, I don't have the other one selected.
Hey everyone.
Okay, so if I turn these off, the selection bubble's off, and we just have nothing selected and we have everything visible, it looks like. Okay, so here, that rotating bubble is this YouTube video. Oh, no, wait, that's the frame, sorry, up here. Aha, it's this YouTube video, which is a green screen video of a rotating thing, right? So I keyed out. So if you look in the effects, key light, right? So I got rid of the green. And so basically the result, framing it the way it is, it looks like it's loading. So doing that in addition to having the screen darken makes it look like it's not working in that moment. So even these things like the top and the bottom, that's what these are. Okay, so this is the top, the Meat Lake and River text up here, and this is the bottom, or the actual black bar that comes on. And so it has tracking and movement so that it when the mouse moves over it, it tracks it, and when the mouse goes off, it gets rid of it. Cool. That kind of covers the opening and what I wanted to talk about there.